Hey, as for the products your company delivers, cut the delivery time in half. This isn't a suggestion, it's an order. Also, increase the delivery quantity by 20%. It's an especially harsh demand to increase the amount by 20% while reducing the delivery time by 50%. There's no way this is possible. I told them that even if we operated the factory at full capacity 24 hours a day, it wouldn't be feasible. I thought they would give up after the usual argument, but this time was different. You always turn us down, but it won't be the usual this time. If you refuse, it's the end of our contract with your outdated, small-town factory. Suddenly, they threatened to end the contract. However, no matter what, if it's impossible, it's impossible. Maybe they've found a cheaper factory and are making these unreasonable demands to cut ties with my factory. Could we at least keep the usual delivery times? I doubt you could find another factory in this country that can meet that schedule. I tried to negotiate at the very least, but as expected, Ned wasn't willing to budge on either the timeline or the quantity. I was really at my limit. Until now, there was a relationship since my grandfather's time, and a duty to the previous president. Even so, there was no need to endure this unilaterally to this extent. I just want to confirm one more time. If we say this is impossible, then we're talking about terminating the contract, right? Don't ask again. Just a contract termination. Understood. Then, please feel free to proceed. My name is Brian Anderson, 57 years old. I run a town factory that has been in my family since my grandfather's generation. Founded 88 years ago. Although the history of a small town factory might not seem valuable, I take pride in supporting a historic factory, and the employees working there take pride in it too. I am technically the president, but my father, at 81, still works actively. Even so, he can't work full-time anymore. And he guides the younger generation a few days a week. From time to time, he also gives me advice. In such a small factory, there are no positions like auditor or counselor. But he plays a role like that. He's really a vigorous father. I hope to be like him. Our factory makes thread. Surprisingly, making thread requires skill. Many might think that fiber manufacturers make their own threads, but actually, factories specializing in thread like ours produce it and supply it to manufacturers. They use our thread to make fabric. We have many artisan-like employees who push their skills to the limit, creating products that other factories can't replicate. Thanks to that, even though we are a small factory, we receive offers from major textile manufacturers. One of our main clients is Sunshine Textiles, a well-known company. It's a company anyone in the textile industry would know. And as for sales, the company might be over 100 times larger than us. It has been our client since my grandfather's time. And we have maintained a good relationship. Back then, Sunshine Textiles wasn't as big. And the president at the time was like a close friend with my grandfather. Beyond business relations. Although the company sizes have grown apart, the current president still treats us as equals. The presidents of Sunshine Textiles, though different in type, have all been respectable. They are all very polite and honest, never looking down on us for being a small company. One such respectable president, Danny Hansen, suddenly resigned. I was surprised, but apparently, he had been suffering from back pain and had to undergo surgery. He'll be hospitalized for a while, and given his age, he's going to pass on the presidency to his son-in-law. Before going to the hospital, Danny came to greet us. Normally, I would take with me the new president, Ned, but he's just come down with the flu. I'll send him later to greet you. I was moved by his gesture of coming to a small company like ours and apologizing deeply. I hope the surgery goes well. You're still young, so once you're better, let's work on something together. I really wanted to continue our relationship with Danny, so I sincerely said that. If this man has chosen Ned, then the new president must be trusted. Nevertheless, that expectation was quickly betrayed. Hey, Sunshine Textiles' new president has come to greet you. 2 weeks later, without any prior communication, Ned suddenly visited. It's unheard of for a president, or anyone really, to visit without making an appointment first. Usually, one would call ahead to check on the other party's availability. No one at any other company has ever done such a thing. I thought perhaps he was looking down on us because we're a small company. But I didn't let it show. Thank you for coming all this way. Normally, I should have gone to greet you. I appreciate your visit. When I said this as a formality, Ned took it at face value and spoke condescendingly. It's really true. Normally, a president of Sunshine Textiles visiting such a small factory is unthinkable. Well, I came all the way this time because my father-in-law insisted on greeting you. But really, I hear from him that this factory takes care of us. Is that true? I don't feel that we've taken care of you. But I believe we have a mutual give-and-take relationship with your company. We look forward to continuing this relationship. Despite Ned's numerous disrespectful remarks, I politely responded. I really wanted to give this rude young man a piece of my mind. But holding back is what adults do. Still, something needs to be done about his way of speaking. I heard he's 37, but it's hard to believe. It feels like I'm talking to someone in their teens or early 20s. Probably, this way of speaking is only towards small trading partners like us. Surely, if he spoke this way to everyone, the previous president, Danny, wouldn't allow it. It seems like our factory is completely underestimated. As it's infuriating to think deeply about it, I've decided to stop worrying about it. Yet, every word Ned speaks grates on my ears once I get aware of it. Thinking that I probably won't talk directly to Ned much. I tell myself to endure this just for now. While I was enduring, Ned eventually left. I was relieved when he looked around the factory and made a troubling comment. It's cheeky for a rundown factory like this to trade with our company as equals. Well, now that I'm the president, I'll be revising a lot of things. What did he mean by that? However, whatever Ned was thinking, I decided not to get too upset as I probably wouldn't have many direct conversations with him anymore. But that thought was naive. Ned is very whimsical, and despite each trading partner having a designated person, he directly contacts and says whatever comes to mind. Hey, I'm looking at your contract right now. The unit price is way too high. Half would be fine, right? From the next contract, let's make it half. Calling out of the blue to demand a 50% price cut is beyond normal business practice. The unit price was determined after multiple negotiations with the responsible personnel. To unilaterally demand a halving is to question whether Ned has ever done business before. I told him straightforwardly that it was impossible, to which he replied, "What? You guys don't have the right to refuse. You subcontractors are just leeching off big companies like us. Realize that you're not in a position to negotiate, spewing such outrageous abuse." He also makes unreasonable demands like having the delivery time or improving the quality. Considering he calls a small factory like ours himself, one might think he has too much free time. But a big company's president shouldn't be idle. Perhaps he's leaving the main tasks to his subordinates, and only personally handles calls like this to harass us, as those calls come so frequently. Calls from Ned either involve impossible demands or him bragging about himself, offering no real business value. I'd block his number if I could, but he's a business contact, which makes it difficult. When I vented to my father about this, he informed me of the situation at other factories. Indeed, Ned's behavior is terrible. Perhaps he's just pretending to be nice in front of Danny. I heard from another partner that the treatment is terrible everywhere. For small factories like ours. Hearing it's not just us, I think I might try to endure a little longer. I'd like to consult Danny, who's currently hospitalized. But I hesitate to trouble him with Ned's behavior. Maybe I'll just watch the situation for a while. "Mr. Anderson, there's a call from the president of Sunshine Textiles," said the office lady, handing me the phone. Thinking it was yet another call, I answered. "I've taken the call. What can I do for you today?" Surely, he was going to say something pointless as usual. I planned to dodge his comments nonchalantly as always and wait for Ned to hang up. However, this time he was more aggressive than usual. "Hey. The parts your place is delivering, cut the delivery time in half. This isn't a suggestion, it's an order. Also, increase the delivery quantity by 20%. He was demanding a 20% increase in quantity while having the delivery time. It was an even worse request than usual. There was no way that would be possible. I told him that even running the factory 24 hours at full capacity wouldn't make it feasible. I thought he'd give up after the usual argument, but this time was different. Always turning us down, it won't be the usual this time. If you refuse, it's the end of our contract with your outdated, small-town factory. He suddenly declared the contract termination. However, no matter what, if it's impossible, it's impossible. Perhaps he's found a cheaper factory and is making unreasonable demands to sever ties with my factory from the start. That's why he's not yielding this time. Could we at least keep the usual delivery times? I doubt you could find another factory in this country that can meet that schedule. I tried to negotiate at the very least. However, as expected, Ned wasn't willing to budge on either the timeline or the quantity. I was really at my limit. Until now, there was a relationship since my grandfather's time, and a duty to the previous president. But there's no need to endure this unilaterally to this extent. I just want to confirm one more time. If we say this is impossible, then we're talking about terminating the contract, right? Don't ask again. Just a contract termination. Understood. Then, please feel free to proceed. When I spoke clearly, even Ned seemed surprised. Probably, as I suspected, he had found other cheaper partners. But he didn't expect such a definitive response. What about the products currently in production? Normally, we would deliver until the previous contract ends. If you want the contract terminated immediately, I can stop the deliveries right now. Of course, stop the deliveries right away. Well, it won't bother us if your deliveries stop. But I suppose it will bother you. Thank you for your concern. However, there's no need to worry about us. Just to note, since this is a breach of contract, you will have to pay a penalty fee. I proceed with the termination of the contract. Now that it's come to this, even if they beg to resume business, I'm not interested. Penalty fees are trivial, so I'll pay. Maybe use that money to prolong your factory's life. My advice would be better to spend it on severance payments for your employees who will be laid off by then. With that, Ned hung up. Later, a package with the contract termination documents arrived by mail. Apparently, no one from their side would visit. They don't want to spend time on us anymore, intending never to do business with us again. In the end, our dealings with Sunshine Textiles, which had continued for decades since my grandfather's time, ended through mail and phone only. It feels somewhat empty to think that such a long-standing relationship ended this way. Even so, knowing I no longer need to speak with the incredibly rude Ned is a relief. Lastly, Ned sent an email saying, "Your factory won't last a year before it goes under. Be careful not to spend your old age in debt now that your factory will close. I don't think we'll ever meet again, but enjoy your bottom-rung life." Truly, he was rude until the very end. Doesn't he know the phrase, "A departing bird doesn't muddy its nest"? Leaving a bad impression gains nothing. About a month later, as I was heading to the company, someone was standing at the entrance. As I approached, I realized it was Ned. After his last email claiming we would never meet again. It was strange he came by himself, but I greeted him anyway. "Excuse me, may I help you? Do you have business with our company, or did you forget something?" Honestly, I didn't think he had left anything behind. But since he was standing at the company's entrance, I felt compelled to speak to him. Given past experiences, I could have turned him away without a word. But at nearly 60, I suppose that's just how it goes. He must have come to say something odd again. As I thought this, Ned suddenly collapsed and started apologizing deeply. "I sincerely apologize for my previous rudeness. I never realized your company was indispensable to us. Could we possibly put the past behind us?" I was stunned to see him apologizing. Well, what's going on? Anyway, we shouldn't discuss this here. Let's go to the reception room in the company. Everyone's watching us here. The company's entrance faces the main street, so Ned collapsing was visible to passers-by. Some averted their eyes or pretended not to see, while others chuckled and moved on. Even if I disliked Ned, I didn't want him to be humiliated. Honestly, I also felt embarrassed to be seen as the person making someone apologize. It might look worse on the person demanding the apology than on the one apologizing. I helped Ned up and wiped the dirt off his clothes with my handkerchief. "Let's go this way." I opened the entrance door and led him to the reception room. He followed me in as urged. While a few employees who had arrived earlier than me were shocked to see a dejected Ned. I asked one of the employees to bring some coffee. "So, what happened? You said we'd never meet again. And now you're suddenly apologizing. Can you explain?" "Actually, it's fine that we stopped doing business with your company. But one of my subordinates told me this. Without your factory's thread, we can't even make a single piece of cloth. Moreover, your factory is actually making a super absorbent towel. That is extremely popular overseas, so it definitely won't go under. It's clear that stopping our transactions will cause more damage to us." So, Ned finally realized the significance of terminating the contract with my company. Indeed, Sunshine Textiles became famous because of the reputation of their cloth being softer and having more exceptional absorbency than other companies. Of course, making cloth requires skill, but actually, without the ideal thread, it's not easy to make good fabric. It's common sense, but Ned dismissed it as just thread and cut the contract with my company. Probably, after trying to make fabric with thread purchased from another company, he realized the quality was nowhere near what it used to be. No matter how much he tried, he couldn't produce good fabric, and now he came crying to me. There's no way customers would buy those inferior products. The quality of fabric is so apparent that even an amateur can see the difference. So he couldn't hide it. Research on thread isn't something that can be done overnight. For Sunshine Textiles to create their ideal fabric, they must find a factory that can make thread comparable to ours. But I am confident that Northwest such place exists, not in this country. And probably not anywhere in the world. I am that confident in the thread my factory produces, because I have dedicated my life to developing it. Moreover, as an employee of Sunshine Textiles mentioned, my factory is not only making thread, but also using it to produce what's called a superabsorbent towel. This has become explosively popular overseas. And now it's even being imported back to the States, where it's in high demand. After being featured on television, it's now a popular item that people wait half a year to buy online. You said your company wouldn't be troubled at all if deliveries from my company stopped, right? Was that a lie? By the way, my company found new clients immediately after we stopped delivering to you. So we're not troubled at all. Plus, there's also the super absorbent towel. It seems the opposite of what you said has happened. I retorted with a hint of sarcasm based on what he had previously said. I'm sorry. It was my arrogance. Could we perhaps renegotiate the contract? I will increase the contract amount by 30% from before. Hearing that, far from being pleased, I became even angrier. It's not about the money. I was so angry that I couldn't even use formal language anymore. Come on. 30% increase. Don't be ridiculous. I'd hate to renegotiate even if you offered to triple it. How about it? I might consider it for 5 times the price. I threw out an amount I knew was impossible. If the cost of thread went up 5-fold, the price of each item would exceed $100, making them unsellable. Either way, Sunshine Textiles would definitely go under. No way. How about 1.5 times the price? If my father-in-law finds out about this, I'll be thrown out of the house. Ned was crying and clinging to me. He collapsed again and started apologizing in the reception room. But since we're not outside, it's not embarrassing to have someone apologize here. I responded indifferently. So, what? I don't care a bit about it if Ned is kicked out of his house. Rather, it's probably for the best that such a man is not in the previous president's house. That would be welcomed, I think. Ned cried and pleaded even more because my response was so indifferent. Please don't be so cold. I'm really desperate. If our company goes under, not just me, but many others will be left wandering the streets. Don't you feel sorry at all? It is indeed pitiful. But that's how business works. If a president does something foolish, the company might go under. Therefore, employees must be careful not to let the president run amok. Honestly, it's the company's responsibility that they couldn't stop the president's rampage. Because I owe a lot to the previous president, it's hard to just abandon you. However, it's not like my factory only received favors. Without our company's thread, Sunshine Textiles wouldn't have become the large company it is today. I think I've said this before, but we truly had a mutual relationship. You unilaterally cut that off, so isn't it your responsibility? You're the president. The president's will is the company's will, so it can't be helped. Would you have helped if the roles were reversed? When I coldly stated this, Ned, grasping at straws, started to suggest buying up the stock we had produced. Understood. I'll give up on restarting the transaction. However, could you sell us the stock you currently have? We're not asking for new production, and it would help clear out your inventory, which I think would benefit your company. Despite this being just a drop in the bucket, Ned seemed desperate to buy time. However, I made it clear that I couldn't accept this proposal. I'd like to sell, but unfortunately, all the current stock is scheduled to be delivered to Alliance Textiles. Did you forget that when you cut the contract? You said you didn't need the thread we were making. The stock is what was originally intended for your company. But since you said you didn't need it, I found a buyer and made a contract. Don't joke about wanting it now. Hearing about Alliance Textiles, Ned was stunned. That's because Alliance Textiles is a rival company fiercely competing for market share with Sunshine Textiles. Although Sunshine Textiles has a slight edge in market share for now, if my factory sides with Alliance Textiles, the tables will undoubtedly turn. Why on earth Alliance Textiles? Alliance Textiles has been interested in our thread for a long time, having been in touch occasionally. However, we had a long-standing relationship with you, and I couldn't betray you. So, I had declined their offers. But then, you unilaterally terminated our deal. It was only natural for us to start trading with Alliance Textiles, wasn't it? I don't think we have any reason to be resented. As I said that, Ned was in a daze. By then, an employee had brought coffee, but he didn't even have the energy to drink it. He just sat there, crying silently. He probably realized that the bleak future for himself and his company was now sealed. There was nothing he could do about it himself. Watching Ned cry like a child, I did feel a bit sorry for him. However, there was nothing more I could do at this point, so I deliberately spoke coldly. Staying here won't accomplish anything for you. You'd better go back to your company and start thinking about what to do next. Maybe if everyone puts their heads together, you might come up with a good plan. Go on, get back. And you should consult with the former president. He might come up with some good ideas. I tried to offer some advice along with my words. Hearing this, Ned stood up and staggered out. He was unsteady on his feet, but as an adult, he should be able to get back to his company on his own. I deliberately didn't see him out. Ned probably didn't want to show any more of his pathetic state to me. I really don't think I'll ever see Ned again. A week later, I got a call from the former president, Danny Hansen. It seemed he had finally heard about the situation directly from Ned. Danny expressed deep regret that our business with them had ended, and apologized for the recent events. He had told Ned when handing over the presidency that maintaining the relationship with our company was of utmost importance and that he should not disrespect us. However, when Ned visited our factory, he thought that if such a shabby factory could manage it, any cheaper or foreign factory could do the same, and decided to terminate the contract with my company, despite being told by the staff about the importance of our thread, and that other factories could not produce it. He forcibly pushed his decision through using his presidential authority. Ned's lack of experience in operations and development was the cause, as he had only worked in sales before. In the end, Ned was fired as president and expelled from the company. At the same time, he also got divorced from his daughter. He caused significant damage to the company, so he received no severance pay. He's probably going to have to start over in a completely new job at his age. As Danny mentioned, Ned won't be able to survive in this industry anymore. Though he was a detestable person, I some would hope for some happiness in his life. But it's his own doing, after all. Danny said his surgery went well, so he seems able to work for a while longer. He's returning as president and will steer the company for the foreseeable future. I think the company is in a major crisis, but if anyone can pull through, it's Danny. We may now be in a competitive position, but I can't help but wish him well. Good luck. If our contract with Alliance Textiles ever ends, I hope we can do business again. Of course, since I have no intention of ending that contract. It was just a polite remark, but Danny seemed pleased and thanked me. Thanks to the much better terms provided by Alliance Textiles than what we had. When contracted with Sunshine Textiles, our sales have soared. And we've been able to hire new employees. Each employee's salary has been raised. And everyone is more motivated than ever to work hard. We also seem likely to allocate more funds for research and development, which could lead to the development of even better products. There's also talk of Alliance Textiles making our super absorbent towels. They've offered to lend us their production lines at a low cost, because we can't produce large quantities on our own. In exchange, they want to co-develop new products. It's a timely opportunity, and discussions are progressing smoothly. Things are going almost frighteningly well, but Ned's case is a reminder. Getting carried away can lead to downfall. I intend to treat all business partners with respect, regardless of whether they are a large or small company. By treating each other with sincerity as human beings, I believe we can overcome any adversity. With that belief, I continue to work today too.